Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, and Bill Gates sit down and have a conversation about AI and ChatGPT and these AI models. And right before we jump into the reaction, I do want to say that if you want to use AI and ChatGPT and learn how to make money with it, I've put together a free 19-minute training below that shows you 3 app ideas that you could get started with today, how to build apps with AI and ChatGPT, and do this even if you're a complete beginner. This training will show you all completely free. Click the link below and sign up for the free training. With that said, let's jump straight into the video.
Right now, I guess we're looking at a lot of productivity improvement from AI, which, that's overwhelmingly a very good thing. Which areas are you most excited about?
Yeah. So first of all, I always think it's worth remembering that we're just sort of on this long continuous curve. So like right now we have AI systems that can do tasks. They certainly can't do jobs, but they can do tasks, and there's productivity gain there. Eventually, they'll be able to do more things that we think of like a job today.
So just some clarity there. I think tasks are fix this specific coding bug. Job is be a developer for the company. ChatGPT can't be a developer for the company right now. It can't think for you and do things for you automatically on its own. It needs to be constantly prompted and assigned tasks. That's kind of what you do when you have an intern at your company. You give them tasks. But then when you have somebody who's a full-time employee and can take over a lot of the responsibility, that's a job.
We'll, of course, find new jobs and better jobs. And I totally believe that if you give people way more powerful tools, it's not just they can work a little faster, they can do qualitatively different things. And so, right now, maybe we can speed up a programmer 3x. It's about what we see. And that's one of the categories that we're most excited about. It's working super well. But if you make a programmer 3 times more effective, it's not just that they can do 3 times more stuff. It's that they can, at that higher level of abstraction, using more of their brain power, they can now think of totally different things.
And this is nothing new. Think when we used to code in assembly, low-level language, you would be typing bits and bytes and memories and allocation, and right? Then you get higher-level programming languages, Python, and you think at a completely different level because all the low-level work is abstracted. Now think at a company level, when the CEO doesn't have to be the engineer and the customer support and all these other things, the CEO can think of a big vision and get everybody behind it. Think of Steve Jobs. Think of Bill Gates. So the higher level you go, the more abstract your thinking becomes and the more things you can attack. And that's what he's saying. So these concepts should be nothing new. These should logically make sense to all of you, hopefully.
And it's going from punch cards to higher level languages didn't just let us program a little faster, it let us do these qualitatively new things. And we're really seeing that. And so as we look at these next steps of things that can do a more complete task, you can imagine a little agent that you can say, go write this whole program for me. I'll ask you a few questions along the way, but it won't just be writing a few functions at a time. That'll enable a bunch of new stuff. And then again, it'll do even more complex stuff. Someday, maybe there's an AI where you can say, go start and run this company for me. And then someday there's maybe an AI where you can say, go discover new physics.
This is where Alex Hormozi talks about, I don't know if you guys know him, but he's an entrepreneur. He's jacked and he kind of blew up overnight. So you can look him up. But he talks about the more advanced and valuable somebody is, the more general tasks you can give them. And basically, the dumber somebody is, you can only give them, you give them very specific tasks. For example, if you have somebody really valuable, you would just go and tell them, hey, start me a $10 million company tomorrow. And that guy can go and figure that out and do it for you, right? For example, if you could hire Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, how easily could they start a brand new company that would be worth a couple of $1 million? Probably very easy for them, right? Or Elon Musk. But then you take somebody who's kind of dumber. I don't know how else to say it, right? But that's just how I say it. Somebody who's dumber, you would have to tell them, press this button to actually turn on your computer, or less skill, let's say, right? You have to be press this button to run this ad. You have to get very microscopically specific. And that's how it is with ChatGPT and AI right now. We have to be pretty specific with the scope. It'll be I'm sorry, I don't understand. But then in future, hopefully you can say things like discover new physics or go start a new company on your behalf, and then it should be able to do it all for you.
And it's the stuff that we're seeing now is very exciting and wonderful. But I think it's worth always putting it in context of this technology that, at least for the next 5 or 10 years, will be on a very steep improvement curve. These are the stupidest the models will ever be. But coding is probably the single area from a productivity gain we're most excited about today. Massively deployed and at scaled usage at this point. Healthcare and education are two things that are coming up that curve that we're very excited about too.
But the thing that is a little daunting is, unlike previous technology improvements, this one could improve very rapidly, and there's kind of no upper bound. I mean, the idea that it achieves human levels on a lot of areas of work, even if it's not doing unique science, it, can do support calls and sales calls. I guess you and I do have some concern, along with this good thing, that it'll force us to adapt faster than we've had to ever before.
That's the scary part. It's not that we have to adapt. It's not that humanity is not super adaptable. We've been through these massive technological shifts, and a massive percentage of the jobs that people do can change over a couple of generations. And over a couple of generations, we seem to absorb that just fine.
Yeah, so it's not so much we'll adapt and we'll find ways to adapt. But Bill Gates is right. This is never happened before. This level of technology, things that can think and improve on their own. For example, when you figured out how to have electricity in a house, that's quite different, right? Once electricity happened in the house, that was it. It was done, right? It wasn't like electricity kept improving its own self automatically. Whereas that will happen with AI, where the more it trains on data, the smarter it becomes automatically. So it's going to kind of have an exponential weird curve of improvement versus a lot of other things. However, Sam is like, we've seen improvements and we've seen crazy big shifts. So humans will find a way to adapt. I'm curious what he's going to say next. I just want to comment on the point he made about coding. Yes, coding is very exciting today. And as much as you hear me say, or other people say, end of programming, it might not be 5 to 10 years from now. And even when we say end of programming, it really might be the end of traditional coding jobs and how they look, where you have software developers sitting there writing code. It's going to morph into you becoming a project manager or a product manager who's going to be writing to AI to build things, and you're going to be overseeing it like you have a bunch of junior developers under you. And then when there are bugs, you might go and check it out and see what's happening. But the bugs are going to start being less and less likely as time goes on, as it starts to get better. And even debugging it might actually not be you coding debugging. It might be giving it instructions and letting it debug. Hey, why did you start it on port 8080? You should have started on port 7000. Hey, why were you using MongoDB? We needed you to use Firebase for this. That level of debugging, kind of like you would when you're interacting with a developer. So coding is an exciting time. You should still learn it. It's incredibly valuable. But start using these AI tools and ChatGPT tools that exist.
We've seen that with the great technological revolutions of the past. Each technological revolution has gotten faster, and this will be the fastest by far. And that's the part that I find potentially a little scary.
That's what I was talking about, where this is a technology revolution that will be the fastest. Adding electricity wasn't that, like, it got added, and then the incremental improvement from there to something else was not as fast, right? You had fire, and then after fire, I don't know, whatever else happened, and then you got electricity, but it was like it took a while to have that happen. Whereas ChatGPT 4, like 3 and 4 is like 10, 20, 50 times better. Like GPT-4 is incomparably better to GPT-3. GPT-3 just looks completely stupid compared to it. GPT-3 looks like a 10-year-old and GPT-4 looks like a 29-year-old. And the difference between a 10-year-old and 29-year-old in terms of intelligence usually isn't like 2 times or 5 times. It's like 80 times, 100 times. The difference is really, really wild.
Just the speed with which society is going to have to adapt and that the labor market will change.
One aspect of AI is robotics or blue-collar jobs. When you get sort of hands and feet
Yeah.
that are at human level capability. And, the incredible ChatGPT breakthrough has kind of gotten us focused on the white.
Thank you for not saying ChatGTP. I mean, how many of you watching this chat say ChatGTP? Like, what the fuck is that? Who started that? Like, why are there so many? Like, majority of the people say GTP. I don't understand. Thank you, Bill Gates, for saying it right.
Collar thing, which is super appropriate. But I do worry people are losing the focus on the blue collar piece. So how do you see robotics?
Super excited for that. We started robots too early. And so we had to put that project on hold. It was hard for the wrong reasons. It wasn't helping us make progress with the difficult parts of the ML research. And, we were like dealing with bad simulators and breaking tendons and things like that. And also we realized more and more over time that what we really first needed was intelligence and cognition. And then we could figure out how to adapt it to physicality. And it was easier to start with that with the way we've built these language models. But we have...
I never thought about that. That's actually really smart. Yeah, because you end up wasting time on building the robot back up because he broke his freaking arm instead of working on the actual thinking of the robot. And so, that's why they decided not to do robots and just focus on the intelligence and cognition part. Very cool.
I've always planned to come back to it. We've started investing a little bit in robotics companies. I think on the physical hardware side, there's finally, for the first time that I've ever seen, really exciting new platforms being built there. And at some point, we will be able to use our models, as you were saying, with their language understanding and future video understanding to say, all right, like, let's do amazing things with a robot.
But if the hardware guys, who've done a good job on legs actually get the arms, hands, fingers piece, and then we couple it, and it's not ridiculously expensive, that could change the job market for a lot of the blue collar type work pretty rapidly.
Yeah. Certainly the prediction, like the consensus prediction, if we rewind 7 or 10 years, was that the impact was going to be blue collar work first, white collar work second, creativity, maybe never, but certainly last, because that was magic and human. Obviously, it's gone exactly the other direction. And I think there's like a lot of interesting takeaways about why that happened. Creative work.
Interesting. So it was like creativity would be the last thing, and now creativity is the first thing being taken away. Interesting, because a lot of people you see using ChatGPT right now will use it to write their emails, will use it to send messages to people, will use it to come up with content ideas. And so if you think about it, it's actually a lot of creative work, creative thinking that we're kind of assigning to ChatGPT, which is interesting. I didn't actually think about it like that. Even when I'm brainstorming with ChatGPT, oftentimes it's very deliberate, like hard decision making and thinking, and I'm having a back and forth. Interesting. And so but eventually once it turns into robotics and gets physicality, then it'll start to take over, construction working jobs, which will be a hard thing to achieve physicality wise and cognitive wise and all of that for it to achieve. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I might have to guess like 10 years, 20 years. Who knows? It might happen sooner and blow my mind, but I just feel like that's really complex. Because if you even look at Tesla, right, the car can barely drive itself. Like it runs into crashes and has bugs, right? People have died because of that. And so to have things that are creating buildings, you don't want to make a mistake there, right? And then the building breaks down and it endangers so many people's lives. So very curious about that, but very interesting that the blue collar jobs will be the last ones kind of taken.
Actually, the hallucinations of the GPT models is a feature, not a bug. It lets you discover some new things. Whereas if you're, having a robot move heavy machinery around, you better be really precise with that. And I think this is just a case of you've got to follow where technology goes, and you have preconceptions, but sometimes the science doesn't want to go that way.
Interesting. So instead of making your own assumptions, it's better to see where technology is actually going and just follow the science step by step rather than, I think this is what's going to happen, because that might change. Because people thought robots would happen first. Well, it's ChatGPT happening first, which is interesting because like I would think it'd be easier to make a robot that goes and does stuff for you, right? Brings you cake or some shit. But apparently it was easier to invent this thing that could solve any fucking problem. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, if you think about ChatGPT, I mean, now we're kind of normalized to it, but it's insane. And I was thinking we would have a robot that would bring me freaking water. And so it's going the other way. And so that's the way that we should actually look at it from. But yes, this is the stupidest these models will ever be. So if you find that interesting at any level and you want to be like, yo, how can I use ChatGPT and AI? And how can I use these tools to learn how to build apps, learn how to make money with it, any of these things. If any of that makes you interested or even slightly curious, I have a 19-minute short free training for you below in the description. Go check it out, because in that training, we're going to go through and talk about ChatGPT. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about the 3 app ideas that you could build. And even if you're a complete beginner, this training will fit you. And even if you're a developer, this will help you. So it's 19 minutes of pure value. Click the link in the description. Join the training. I'd love to see you inside. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.